The old ship groaned as it pushed through the darkness of space. It tall, marked with patches of newer metal among the old, told stories of countless repairs. The HMS Steadfast was far from the gleaming vessels that made up the rest of the Terran fleet. While other ships boasted smooth lines and glowing energy weapons, the Steadfast still carried traditional railguns and ballistic weaponry that most considered outdated. Captain Thomas Reed stood at the bridge window, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the stars drift by. 25 years of service had left streaks of gray in his dark hair, but his eyes remained sharp as they scanned the sector his ship was assigned to patrol. It was quiet out here, far from the front lines where humanity fought against the Bright Horizon Collective. That's all his ship was good for these days. Patrol duty in empty space. Another thrilling day in the back end of nowhere. Weapons Officer James Cooper said from his station, his voice carrying a hint of frustration. He was young, barely 30, and Reed could sense his officer's desire for action. "Quiet is good," Reed replied, turning to face his bridge crew. "Quiet means our colonists are safe." He walked over to Cooper's station, glancing at the sensor readings. All clear, as usual. The captain had learned to appreciate these peaceful moments, especially with the war going badly for humanity in other sectors. The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Engineering to bridge." Maria Wells' voice was calm, but carried an edge of concern that made Reed straighten up. "Captain, I need you down here. There's something you should see." Reed exchanged glances with Cooper before heading to the lift. "Keep our eyes sharp up here," he ordered as the doors closed. The trip down to engineering was quick, but Reed felt every vibration, every small shudder of his aging ship. He knew the Steadfast's every sound, every quirk, like a rider knows their horse. Engineering was a maze of pipes, conduits, and machinery that looked more at home in a museum than a warship. Wells stood at her main console, her dark hair tied back messily as she pored over readouts. Unlike the sleek holographic displays on modern ships, the Steadfast still used physical screens and buttons. She looked up as Reed approached. "Captain, remember those power fluctuations we've been tracking in the main railgun systems?" Wells pulled up a diagram on her screen. "I think I know what's causing them. And it's not what we thought." Reed leaned in to study the display. Unlike most of his crew, who saw the Steadfast's old technology as a burden, Wells had always shown genuine interest in understanding how everything worked. "Show me," he said. "The fluctuations aren't a malfunction," Wells explained, her fingers dancing across the controls. "They're a harmonic resonance created by the interaction between our railgun's magnetic field and the new quantum shielding systems installed during our last refit." She pulled up another screen showing wave patterns. "Look at these frequencies." Reed studied the patterns, but engineering wasn't his specialty. "What am I looking at, Wells?" "Our railguns are creating quantum interference patterns," she said, excitement creeping into her voice. "The same kind of patterns that the Bright Horizons ships use in their shield systems. Captain, I think our obsolete weapons might actually be able to affect their defenses in ways their engineers never considered." Before Reed could respond, the ship's alert system activated. Cooper's voice came through the intercom. "Captain to the bridge. We got company." Reed and Wells shared a look before he hurried back to the lift. When he reached the bridge, Cooper was already pulling up sensor data. "Bright Horizon patrol ship," Cooper reported. "Light cruiser class. They're staying just outside standard sensor range." "They're testing our response," Reed said, settling into his command chair. "Standard patrol pattern. Let's not give them anything unusual to report." The bridge crew worked efficiently, maintaining their course while keeping tabs on the alien vessel. The Bright Horizon ship was beautiful in a deadly way, all smooth curves and glowing energy nodes. Next to it, the Steadfast must have looked like space debris. "They're scanning us," Cooper reported, getting a lot of attention for an obsolete patrol ship. Reed watched the alien vessel on the main screen. "They're probably wondering why we're still using a ship this old," he said with a slight smile. "Let them think we're harmless." Pride comes before the fall. Hours passed as the two ships maintained their distance. The Bright Horizon cruiser eventually departed, apparently satisfied that the old human vessel posed no threat. Only then did Reed allow himself to relax slightly. "Cooper, I want you to work with Wells on something," Reed said after the alien ship was gone. "She's found an interesting quirk in our weapon systems. Could be nothing, but I want it investigated." "Sir," Cooper looked confused. "Our weapon systems are ancient. What could possibly be interesting about them?" Reed smiled. "Sometimes the old ways have advantages we've forgotten. And right now, we need every advantage we can get." He turned to face his weapons officer fully. "The Bright Horizon thinks they know everything about us. They see our older technology and dismiss it. That's their weakness." Later that night, Reed sat in his quarters, reviewing Wells' initial findings. The engineering officer had already compiled an impressive amount of data on the harmonic interactions she discovered. If she was right, the Steadfast's railguns might be capable of something revolutionary. He pulled up the latest fleet reports on his tablet. The news wasn't good. The Bright Horizon was pushing further into human space every day, their advanced shields making them nearly invulnerable to modern energy weapons. The Terran fleet's newest ships, for all their technological advancement, were struggling to make a dent in the alien defenses. Reed looked out his small window at the stars beyond. The Steadfast had been his home for 5 years now. Ever since the Admiralty had decided he was better suited to quiet patrol duty than frontline command. They'd given him an old ship because they thought both he and the vessel were past their prime. But Reed knew better. He'd served through 3 wars, commanded 6 ships, and learned one crucial lesson. It's not the shine of the weapon that matters, but the wisdom to know how to use it. The Steadfast might be old, but age brought with it experience and hidden strengths. He opened a new message window and began composing a report to Fleet Command about Wells' discovery. He already knew what would happen. They would dismiss it as the desperate theories of a crew assigned to an obsolete ship, but he would document everything anyway. Someday they might need this information. As he wrote, the Steadfast continued its patrol through the quiet sector of space, its ancient engines humming steadily. To anyone watching, it was just another outdated ship assigned to a backwater post. But within its worn hull, something revolutionary was brewing. A discovery that would soon shake the very foundations of the war. Reed finished his report and sent it, knowing it would likely be filed away and forgotten. That was fine. Let them underestimate the Steadfast. Let them think its age made it weak. Soon enough, they would all learn what this old ship and her crew were truly capable of. 3 days had passed since Maria Wells' discovery, and she hadn't slept much since then. The engineering bay had become her second home, filled with scattered data pads and cold cups of coffee. James Cooper stood beside her, watching as she made another adjustment to the railgun's power settings. "Run the simulation again," Wells said, pushing her tired eyes. The computer churned through the calculations, its older processors working harder than their modern counterparts would have needed to. Cooper leaned in as the results appeared on the screen. "That's the 3rd successful test," he said, unable to hide his excitement. "The frequency matching is perfect. These readings suggest we could disrupt their shield harmonics by at least 60%. Wells nodded, but kept typing. "The theory works in simulation, but we need real-world data. Without knowing the exact frequencies of their shield systems, we're just guessing." The ship's intercom buzzed. "Engineering, this is the captain. Status report." "Sir," Wells responded, "we've confirmed the theory in simulation. The railgun's magnetic field can be tuned to create destructive interference patterns in quantum shield systems. But," she hesitated, "we need more data on their actual shield frequencies to make it work." "Understood." Reed's voice carried a note of consideration. "Both of you, come to my ready room. Bring your findings." Minutes later, they sat across from Captain Reed as he reviewed their data. The ready room was small, like everything else on the Steadfast, but it felt comfortable, lived in. A model of the ship sat on Reed's desk, its paint slightly chipped. "So," Reed said, looking up from the reports, "we have a weapon that might work, but we need to scan their shields up close to get the right frequencies." "Yes, sir," Cooper answered. "We'd need to be within standard combat range, and we'd have to get them to power up their shields fully. The scan would take about 30 seconds. Reed leaned back in his chair. 30 seconds is a long time in a fight, especially against their technology. "Sir," Wells leaned forward, "I know it's risky, but this could change everything. Their quantum shields have made them nearly invincible against our energy weapons, but they've never had to defend against something like this. They don't even think about kinetic weapons anymore." A message alert flashed on Reed's desk screen. He read it quickly, his expression darkening. "Fleet Command responded to our report," he said. "They're not interested in pursuing the theory. They say we should focus on our patrol duties and leave weapons development to the research division." Wells felt her heart sink, but Cooper spoke up. "With all due respect to Fleet Command, sir, they're wrong. We've proved the concept works. We just need a chance to test it." Reed stood and walked to his window, watching the stars streak by. "The problem is, Fleet Command thinks the future is in energy weapons. They've invested everything in trying to overpower the Bright Horizons shields. The idea that an old railgun might do what their newest weapons can't. It doesn't fit their worldview." The ship suddenly shuddered slightly, and a moment later, the alert system activated. "Bridge to Captain." The watch officer's voice came through. "We're picking up unusual energy readings from the nearby asteroid field." All three of them hurried to the bridge. The main screen showed a cluster of asteroids about 50,000 kilometers away, with strange energy fluctuations appearing between the rocks. "Analysis?" Reed asked, settling into his command chair. "It looks like some kind of cloaking field failing," Cooper said from his station. "Sir, I think someone's been watching us." As if on cue, a Bright Horizons scout ship shimmered into view, its cloaking device malfunctioning. The alien vessel was smaller than the cruiser they'd seen days ago, but still deadly. "They must have been monitoring our tests," Wells said quietly. Reed's voice remained calm. "Battle stations. Power up weapons, but do not target them yet." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, even as old systems whirred to life around them. The scout ship, perhaps realizing it had been spotted, began moving toward them. Its sleek form seemed to mock the Steadfast's aged appearance. "They're scanning us," Cooper reported. "Getting the same readings as before. They're focusing on our weapon systems." Reed nodded slowly. "They saw our tests. They're trying to figure out what we were doing." He turned to Wells. "How long would you need to get good readings of their shield frequencies?" 30 seconds, sir, but they'd have to have their shields at full power." A small smile crossed Reed's face. "Cooper, load the railguns with practice rounds. Power them up to full, but keep them slightly out of alignment with Wells' modifications." "Sir," Cooper looked confused. "They want to know what we're up to. Let's give them a show. Make it look like we're having trouble with our weapons, like we can't quite get them working right." Understanding dawned on Wells' face. "We let them think we're struggling with malfunctioning equipment, and they'll stick around to gather intelligence." Reed finished. "Their pride won't let them pass up a chance to study what they think is a failed experiment." The next 20 minutes were tense. The Steadfast made a show of powering up its railguns, then powering them down, as if running tests. The Bright Horizons scout ship moved closer, its own shields raised as it observed. "They're at optimal scanning range," Wells reported from her jerry-rigged scanning station. "Their shields are at full power. They're taking no chances with us." "Cooper," Reed said quietly, "on my mark, I want you to fire a single practice round. Make it look like an accident. Wells, be ready with your scans." The bridge crew held their breath. The scout ship hovered nearby, its sensors probing the Steadfast's systems. "Now," Reed ordered, Cooper fired. The practice round, harmless though it was, streaked toward the alien ship. As expected, they easily deflected it with their shields. "Scans coming in," Wells said excitedly. "Their shield frequencies are clear as day. They're exactly where we thought they'd be in the quantum spectrum. Sir, we were right." The alien ship, apparently satisfied that the Steadfast's weapons were no threat, began to turn away. They transmitted a message in the common trade language. "Your weapons malfunction is noted. Recommend immediate return to port for repairs." Reed waited until they were gone before allowing himself to smile. "Wells, Cooper, how long will it take to calibrate our railguns to those frequencies?" "A few hours, sir," Wells answered. "We'll need to adjust the magnetic coils precisely, but now we know exactly what we're aiming for." "Get to work," Reed ordered, "and keep it quiet. As far as anyone else is concerned, we're still having technical difficulties." He looked at the star chart where the scout ship had disappeared. "They think they caught us testing a failed weapon. Their overconfidence is going to cost them dearly." As Wells and Cooper hurried back to engineering, Reed sent a final message to Fleet Command, officially reporting the weapons malfunction and requesting maintenance at their next port call. Let the Bright Horizon think they had nothing to fear from this old ship. Let them think the Steadfast was just another relic, struggling to keep its outdated weapons working. Soon enough, they would learn just how dangerous underestimating this ship and her crew could be. The real test was coming, and the Steadfast would be ready. The alarms blared through the Steadfast's corridors without warning. Captain Reed was in engineering, reviewing the latest adjustments to the railgun systems, when the call came from the bridge. "Captain, emergency transmission from Fleet Command." The watch officer's voice was tight with tension. "The Bright Horizon has launched a major offensive. They've broken through our lines at Thompson's Gate." Reed was already moving, with Wells close behind him. They reached the bridge just as the tactical display updated, showing a massive fleet of enemy ships pushing through humanity's defensive line. The main screen filled with emergency broadcasts from civilian ships fleeing the attack. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" Cooper asked from his station, hands flying over the controls. "They didn't," Reed said grimly, studying the tactical display. "They went through them. Look at the debris fields." The screen showed the scattered remains of human sensor platforms and patrol ships. "They knew exactly where to hit us." "Sir," the communications officer called out, "I'm getting distress calls from the Palmer Colony Evacuation Fleet. They're trying to escape through our sector, but their escorts were pulled away to defend the main line." Reed's jaw tightened. The Palmer Colony held over 50,000 civilians. If the Bright Horizon fleet caught them, he turned to Wells. "Are the railgun modifications ready?" "Yes, sir. We've calibrated them to match the frequencies we recorded from the scout ship, but we haven't had a chance to test them in actual combat conditions." "Sir," Cooper's voice cut through the tension, "long-range sensors are picking up a large force of Bright Horizon ships. They're on an intercept course with the Palmer Evacuation Fleet. Time to intercept, 40 minutes." Reed stood at the center of his bridge, feeling the weight of command more heavily than ever before. The tactical display told a clear story. The Steadfast was the only military ship within range of the civilian fleet. Their orders were clear: patrol ships were to avoid engagement with major enemy forces and retreat to designated rally points. "How many ships in the enemy force?" Reed asked quietly. Cooper swallowed hard before answering. 15 vessels, sir. 2 heavy cruisers, 8 destroyers, and 5 escort ships. They're moving fast." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. Even with their modified weapons, the Steadfast was just one aging destroyer going up against an Armada. "Sir," the communications officer spoke up, "Fleet Command is ordering all patrol ships to fall back to Defense Point Delta. They're writing off this sector." Reed walked to the main viewport, watching the stars. Behind those stars were 50,000 civilians running for their lives. He thought about Fleet Command, about their dismissal of Wells' discovery, about their focus on newer and flashier technology. "Plot an intercept course with the enemy fleet," Reed ordered. The bridge crew looked at him in shock. Cooper was the first to speak. "Sir, those orders." "I know what the orders say." Reed turned to face his crew. "I also know what's at stake. 50,000 civilians who won't stand a chance if we run." He looked at each of them in turn. "I won't order any of you to disobey a direct command. If you want to take a shuttle to the rally point, I'll understand." Wells stepped forward first. "My railgun modifications. My place is here." "The weapons don't work without a targeting system," Cooper added with a slight smile. "I'm staying." One by one, the bridge crew voiced their support. Reed felt a surge of pride in his people. This was why the old ships were special. Their crews learned to trust each other, to become family. "Plot a course that puts us between the enemy fleet and the civilian ships," Reed ordered. "Engineering. Divert all spare power to the railgun systems." "Cooper, I want firing solutions ready the moment they come in range." The Steadfast's engines pushed to full power, its old frame shuddering with the effort. On the tactical display, the red dots of the enemy fleet grew closer. The blue dots of the civilian ships were moving as fast as they could, but they were slow, vulnerable. "Sir," Cooper reported, "enemy fleet is launching scout drones. They'll have visual contact in 5 minutes." "Let them look," Reed said. "Let them see exactly what's coming for them. An old ship with outdated weapons. Their pride won't let them turn away from such an easy target." Wells worked at her station, monitoring the railgun modifications. "Power levels are holding steady, sir. The frequency matching is perfect. If this works." "When this works," Reed corrected her, "we just have to hold them long enough for the civilian ships to escape." The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. The enemy fleet grew larger on their screens, their sleek ships gleaming with deadly purpose. The Steadfast must have looked like space debris to them, a single ancient vessel daring to challenge their might. "They're broadcasting, sir," the communications officer reported. "They're ordering us to stand down or be destroyed." "No response," Reed ordered. "Let them think our communications are as outdated as everything else." He turned to his crew. "This is the moment, people. Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few minutes. Whatever happens, I want you to know how proud I am of this crew." The first enemy shots would come soon. Reed could almost feel the Bright Horizon commanders' amusement at this lone, outdated ship challenging their fleet. They would expect an easy victory, a moment's diversion before continuing their pursuit of the civilian vessels. "All hands," Reed's voice carried through the ship's intercom. "Battle stations. This old girl has one more fight in her, and it's going to be one for the history books." The Steadfast's engines pushed harder, driving the ship toward its date with destiny. Behind them, 50,000 civilians prayed for a miracle. Ahead of them, an enemy fleet approached, confident in their superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They had no idea what was coming. The first shots from the Bright Horizon fleet lit up space like artificial stars. Their energy weapons were beautiful in a deadly way. The Steadfast's older engines growled as Reed ordered evasive maneuvers, avoiding the initial barrage. "They're trying to bracket us," Cooper called out from his station. "Standard containment pattern. They think we'll run." Reed allowed himself a small smile. "That's their first mistake." "Wells, are the railguns ready?" "Yes, sir. Frequency matching is locked in. We'll only get one chance at this. They'll adapt once they realize what we're doing." The enemy fleet spread out in a classic attack formation. Their 2 heavy cruisers held back, letting their destroyers move forward to deal with what they surely saw as a minor annoyance. The Steadfast must have looked pathetic to them, an ancient vessel with visible repair patches along its hull. "Let them get closer," Reed ordered. "Wait for my mark." His crew trusted him, holding their positions even as the enemy ships closed in. The first destroyer was now less than 10,000 kilometers away, its quantum shields glowing with confidence. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, They're powering up their main weapons. All ships are bringing their shields to maximum power. Perfect, Reed said quietly. That's their second mistake. Cooper, target the nearest destroyer. Wells, initiate the frequency pulse. The Steadfast's railguns hummed to life, their magnetic coils spinning up to full power. The enemy destroyer's captain must have been surprised to see such an antiquated weapon system activating. Perhaps they were even laughing. Fire. The first shot streaked across space. A simple metal slug accelerated to incredible speed. The destroyer didn't even try to dodge, trusting its quantum shields to handle such primitive weaponry. Then the impossible happened. The projectile passed through the shield as if it wasn't there, its specially tuned magnetic field creating a perfect disruption in the quantum barrier. The slug slammed into the destroyer's hull, ripping through armor designed to deflect energy weapons, but vulnerable to good old-fashioned kinetic impact. Direct hit, Cooper shouted. Their shields they're completely down. The destroyer listed to one side, emergency systems flaring. The rest of the enemy fleet seemed to pause in shock. Reed didn't give them time to recover. Target the next ship. Fire at will. The Steadfast's railguns roared again and again. Each shot was precisely calibrated to match the frequency of the enemy shields, each impact devastating. 2 more destroyers fell before the Bright Horizon fleet realized the true danger they faced. They're changing formation, Cooper reported with grim satisfaction, breaking up their tight groups. They didn't expect to need point defense against ballistic weapons. The enemy fleet's confidence had turned to confusion. Their return fire became erratic as ship after ship found their supposedly impenetrable shields useless against the Steadfast's attacks. The old destroyer danced between their energy beams, its experienced crew using their ship's smaller size to their advantage. The heavy cruisers are moving in, Wells warned. They're adapting their shield frequencies. Reed nodded. As expected, Cooper switched to scattershot pattern. Wells begin random frequency modulation. The Steadfast's next volley split into multiple projectiles, each tuned to a slightly different frequency. The heavy cruiser's shields caught some, but others slipped through, causing damage across their hulls. Not as devastating as direct hits, but enough to keep them off balance. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "The civilian ships report they're almost at the jump point. 10 more minutes." "Enemy destroyers regrouping," Cooper warned. "They're trying to flank us." Reed studied the tactical display. 4 enemy destroyers were already disabled or destroyed, but the remaining ships were adapting their tactics. They'd lost the advantage of surprise, and now the real test would begin. "Bring us about," Reed ordered. "Full power to forward shields. Wells, divert auxiliary power to the railgun cooling systems. We're going straight through their line." The Steadfast turned to face the enemy formation head-on. It was a move so aggressive, so seemingly suicidal, that it caught the Bright Horizon ships off guard. They'd expected the human vessel to keep trying to evade. "Multiple enemy locks," Cooper shouted. "Energy weapons charging." "Hold course," Reed commanded. The enemy fire came in a devastating wave, but Reed had counted on their anger, their wounded pride. Their shots were powerful but predictable. The Steadfast slipped through gaps in their fire, its old hull groaning with the strain of high-G maneuvers. "Port railgun ready," Wells reported. "Target the lead cruiser's command section," Reed ordered. "Fire when ready." The shot caught the cruiser's captain by surprise. They'd been so focused on hitting the Steadfast with their energy weapons that they'd let their shield frequencies stabilize. The railgun round punched through their weakened defenses and struck their bridge directly. The massive cruiser's lights flickered and died, its systems failing as emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout its hull. The second cruiser broke formation, trying to maintain distance from the seemingly primitive vessel that had just crippled its flagship. 5 minutes until the civilian ship's jump, communications reported. "Enemy fleet is falling back," Cooper added. "They're retreating, sir." But Reed saw something in the tactical display that made his blood run cold. "No, they're not retreating. They're clearing the firing lane. All hands, braced for impact." The second cruiser had moved to a position where the Steadfast couldn't reach it with a direct shot. Its main gun, a massive energy weapon that ran the length of the ship, began to glow with gathered power. "Evasive maneuvers," Reed ordered, but he knew they couldn't dodge this shot. The cruiser had timed it perfectly, waiting until the Steadfast was committed to its attack run. "Impact in 3 seconds," Cooper shouted. "Divert all power to starboard shields." The energy beam struck the Steadfast like the fist of an angry god. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as systems overloaded. On the bridge, displays exploded in showers of sparks. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, damage control reported. Emergency containment holding." Through the chaos, Wells' voice cut through. "Railguns still operational, sir. Cooling systems damaged, but functioning." Reed pulled himself back to his command chair, ignoring the blood running down his face from a cut caused by flying debris. "Cooper, do you have a firing solution on that cruiser?" "Yes, sir, but our shot will be weak without full power to the magnetic coils." "It doesn't need to be strong," Reed said. "It just needs to be precise. Wells, forget the cooling. Divert all remaining power to the coils. 1 shot. Make it count." The Steadfast's railgun fired one last time. The projectile seemed to move in slow motion across space, its magnetic field precisely tuned to the cruiser's shield frequency. The enemy captain must have felt safe at this range, must have thought their shields could handle any attack from this damaged relic. They were wrong. The shot pierced their shields and struck their main weapon array just as it was powering up for another blast. The resulting explosion ripped through the cruiser's hull, secondary detonations following as power conduits overloaded. Civilian ships entering jump point. Communications announced triumphantly. "They're away." The remaining enemy ships, seeing their cruisers destroyed and their prey escaped, began to withdraw. The Steadfast's bridge crew watched in exhausted amazement as the mighty Bright Horizon fleet retreated from their single ancient destroyer. "Damage report," Reed ordered, finally allowing himself to breathe normally again. "Hull breaches on multiple decks, shield generators at 20%, main power fluctuating," Wells reported. "But we're alive, sir. We're all alive." Reed looked at his tactical display, at the debris of 8 enemy ships floating in space around them. Not bad for an obsolete patrol ship. "Send a message to Fleet Command," he ordered. Tell them the Steadfast sends its regards. And we'll be needing those repairs after all." 2 weeks after the battle, the Steadfast limped into Victory Station's repair dock. Its hull bore new scars, patches of armor blackened and torn from enemy fire. But it moved under its own power, proud despite its wounds. As the docking clamps engaged, a crowd had gathered in the observation deck. Word of the ship's impossible victory had spread through the fleet. Reed stood on his bridge, watching the repair crews swarm around his ship through the viewport. The last 2 weeks had been a blur of emergency repairs, debriefings, and endless questions from Fleet Command. Wells hadn't left engineering during the entire journey back, nursing their damaged systems along. "Captain," Cooper called from his station, "Admiral Thompson is requesting permission to come aboard." Reed straightened his uniform. "Grant permission. Have Wells meet us in the main conference room." The Admiral arrived with a full entourage of technical specialists and fleet officers. Reed noticed how they all stared at the Steadfast's old-style corridors, their eyes lingering on the exposed conduits and physical control panels. They weren't looking with dismissal anymore, but with curiosity. In the conference room, Wells had set up a detailed presentation of their weapon modifications. She stood proudly beside her diagrams and data readings, dark circles under her eyes, but her spine straight. The Admiral's technical team leaned forward as she explained the frequency matching technique. "Remarkable," Admiral Thompson said when she finished. "You turned the enemy's greatest strength into a weakness. Their reliance on quantum shields made them forget about basic physical defense. He turned to Reed. The footage from your battle has been analyzed by every tactical officer in the fleet. 8 enemy ships destroyed, 2 heavy cruisers disabled, and 50,000 civilians saved. The Steadfast is a good ship, sir, Reed replied simply. She just needed a chance to prove it. More than proved it, Thompson smiled. Fleet Command has ordered an immediate review of all our older vessels. We're refitting the entire reserve fleet with modified railgun systems based on your designs. The Bright Horizons expansion has stalled as they scramble to adapt their defenses. Wells spoke up. Sir, the frequency matching technique won't work forever. They'll develop countermeasures. Of course they will, Thompson nodded. But you've given us something more valuable than a single weapon. You've reminded us not to rely too heavily on any one technology. Sometimes the old ways are still useful. The Admiral's technical team wanted to begin detailed scans of the Steadfast's weapons immediately, but Thompson held up his hand. First, there's something else. He pulled out a data pad. New orders for the Steadfast and her crew. Reed took the pad, reading quickly. His eyes widened slightly. The Steadfast is being reassigned to the front lines, Thompson explained. We're forming a new tactical unit around her. 6 other ships of her class, all being refitted with your weapons. You'll be leading them, Captain. Sir, Reed looked up in surprise. The Bright Horizon thinks they know everything about us, Thompson said. They see our older ships and dismiss them as relics. Let's show them how dangerous that assumption can be. Your task force will strike at targets they think are safe, using weapons they think are obsolete. After the Admiral left, Reed gathered his crew in the ship's mess hall. The room was crowded. Every member of the crew pressed in to hear their captain's words. They'd been through hell together, survived against impossible odds. Fleet Command has given us new orders, Reed announced. They want us hunting bigger game. A cheer went up from the crew. But first, we're getting a full refit. New armor, improved power systems, and better targeting computers. They're not taking out our old controls, are they? Someone called from the vac. There was worry in the voice. The crew had grown to trust their familiar systems. No, Reed smiled. They want to study how we do things the old way. Apparently, we've started a trend. Sometimes the tried and true methods are still the best. What about the railguns? Cooper asked. Are they replacing those? Actually, Wells spoke up. They want me to supervise the installation of similar systems on other ships. But the Steadfast keeps her original guns. They're part of her soul now. The crew dispersed to their duties, morale higher than ever. Reed walked through his ship's corridors, running his hand along the worn walls. The repair crews would fix the battle damage, replace the burned-out systems, but they wouldn't change the Steadfast's essential nature. She would remain what she had always been, a warrior, tested by time and combat. A month later, the Steadfast led her new task force out of dock. 6 other ships of her class flew in formation with her, their hulls gleaming with fresh paint, but their hearts old and strong. Their railguns had been modified according to Wells' designs, their crews trained in the old ways of space combat. On the bridge, Reed watched his tactical display as the ships moved into attack formation. The Bright Horizon had grown cautious since their defeat, clustering their ships for protection, doubting their invincibility for the first time. Task Force reports ready, sir, Cooper said from his station. Wells stood beside him, monitoring the weapons systems she'd helped design. Send a message to all ships, Reed ordered. Tell them, the old guard is back. Let's remind our enemies why they should fear what they don't understand. The Steadfast's engines powered up, pushing the ship toward its next battle. It didn't matter that newer, more advanced vessels filled the fleet. The old destroyer had found its place again, leading the way into combat, proving that sometimes the best weapons were the ones your enemies had forgotten about. In the weeks that followed, the Steadfast and her task force became legendary among both human and alien forces. They struck from unexpected vectors. their antiquated weapons tearing through defenses designed to stop far more advanced attacks. The Bright Horizons expansion faltered, then stopped entirely as they were forced to rebuild their entire defensive doctrine. But more importantly, the Steadfast had sparked a change in how the fleet thought about warfare. New ships began incorporating old technologies alongside their energy weapons. Hybrid defense systems were developed, combining quantum shields with traditional armor. The best of both worlds, the wisdom of age married to the power of innovation. And through it all, the Steadfast sailed on, its scared hull and weathered crew a reminder that true strength comes not from having the newest weapons, but from knowing how to use what you have. In the end, that was what had saved 50,000 lives and changed the course of a war. Not advanced technology, but the courage and creativity of a crew who believed in their ship when no one else would. The old destroyer had been overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. But in its finest hour, it had proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one your enemy thinks is harmless. The Steadfast had earned its place in history, not as a relic, but as a revolution. The massive drill bit broke through the final layer of rock, sending vibrations through the underground facility that made coffee cups rattle on desks 3 miles below the Pacific Ocean. Admiral James Thompson stood at the observation window, watching as robots cleared away the debris. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands were clasped tightly behind his back. This was the 20th expansion to the facility in 3 years, and they needed every cubic foot of space they could get. "Admiral, the new reactor chamber is ready for inspection," Dr. Amanda Wells said as she walked up beside him. She was holding a tablet displaying a 3-dimensional blueprint of their underground complex, known only as the Forge. "How are we doing on power consumption?" Thompson asked, his eyes still fixed on the drilling operation. "We're managing, sir. The geothermal taps are providing enough energy to keep us hidden from thermal scans, but once we start the main assembly..." She left the sentence hanging. Thompson nodded slowly. They both knew what was at stake. 3 years ago, the aliens had come without warning. While the world's armies had fought them in the skies and on land, it was the oceans where humanity had truly learned how outmatched they were. The aliens' underwater vessels had cut through Earth's most advanced submarines like they were made of paper. The memory of watching the U.S. Gerald Ford battle group disappear from radar still haunted Thompson's dreams. 15 ships and 20,000 sailors, gone in less than 6 minutes. The aliens' aquatic technology had been so far beyond anything Earth possessed that the only reason humanity survived at all was because the invaders had focused most of their forces on land-based targets. "Show me the latest tests on the hull materials," Thompson said, finally turning away from the window. Amanda pulled up a new set of data on her tablet. The screen showed microscopic images of what looked like liquid metal shifting and flowing under different pressures. "The metamaterial is exceeding our initial specifications. It can now handle pressure variations of up to 1,500 atmospheres without showing any stress patterns. Dr. Miller thinks we might be able to push it even further." They walked together through the sprawling underground complex, passing hundreds of engineers and technicians. The Forge employed over 5,000 people, all of whom had essentially disappeared from the surface world. Their families had been relocated to a purpose-built community on an artificial island, one of the few places on Earth where they could live without fear of being discovered. The main assembly chamber was a cathedral of technology. Rising nearly 1,000 feet high and stretching twice that in length, it housed the partially completed form of humanity's secret weapon. The U.S. Nemesis was unlike anything ever built before. Its dark hull seemed to drink in the light, and its shape defied conventional naval architecture. "We've completed the integration of the quantum core," Amanda said as they stood on the highest observation platform. "The power output is stable, and the shielding is holding. We can now run the engines at full capacity without risking detection." Thompson watched as robotic arms the size of office buildings carefully positioned another hull section. "And the AI integration. That's complicated." Amanda pulled up another set of readings. The quantum processor is operating far beyond our initial predictions. It's not just learning. It's creating new operational protocols we didn't program. Last week, it suggested improvements to its own cooling system that none of our engineers had even considered. Thompson frowned. Is it dangerous? Not in the way you're thinking. It's not trying to break free or take over. It's just eager. Like a child who's learning faster than its teachers can keep up. It wants to protect us. That seems to be its core drive, beyond all the military protocols we've installed. They took an elevator down to the engineering level, where dozens of technicians were working on a section of the ship's outer skin. The metal rippled slightly under the bright lights, adjusting its molecular structure to maintain optimal strength. The aliens think they know everything about us, Thompson said quietly. They think they can read our every move, predict our every strategy. They believe their sensors can detect any weapon we might build. He reached out and touched the hull, feeling the slight warmth of the living metal under his fingers. But they don't know about this place. They don't know that we've taken their own technology, stolen from their wrecked ships, and pushed it far beyond what they thought possible. Amanda checked another reading on her tablet. Sir, we're getting some unusual readings from the AI core. It's requesting access to more historical battle data. Give it what it wants. Every naval battle in human history, every strategy, every victory, and every defeat. Let it learn from all of our mistakes and triumphs. A young lieutenant hurried up to them, holding a security tablet. Admiral, we've detected unusual sonar activity near the seamount. A Chinese fishing vessel might have strayed too close to the exclusion zone. Thompson's face hardened. Activate the acoustic disruptors. Make sure their instruments show nothing but normal background noise, and get me a direct line to Beijing. I need to remind some people about the importance of maintaining our fishing treaties. This was the reality of their work. Every day was a balance between pushing the boundaries of technology and maintaining absolute secrecy. One slip, one satellite photo, one stray sonar ping could reveal their location to the aliens who still watched Earth from their orbital stations. The forge had been built in the aftermath of humanity's Pyrrhic victory over the first invasion. While the public celebrated and governments spoke boldly about standing up to alien aggression, a select few had understood the truth. The aliens had only sent a small expeditionary force. The real invasion was still coming. Time estimate to completion. Thompson asked as they completed their inspection round. 4 months for final assembly, then at least 2 months of testing before we can even think about sea trials, Amanda replied. Assuming nothing goes wrong. Thompson almost smiled. In a project this complex, something always went wrong. But they had planned for that, built in redundancies upon redundancies. The forge itself was a testament to humanity's determination to survive. Built in secret using black budget funds from 12 different nations, it represented the largest covert engineering project in human history. Dr. Wells, Thompson said as they reached his office, do you ever wonder if we're taking too big a risk? Putting too many resources into one ship? Amanda looked through the armored windows at the enormous vessel below. Sir, when the aliens came, they showed us exactly what they thought of us. They saw us as primitive, easy prey. This ship, she gestured at the Nemesis. This is our answer. Not just a weapon, but proof that humanity can't be underestimated. Thompson sat down at his desk, which was covered with reports from various project teams. The quantum core is stable. The hull can adapt to any depth. The AI is evolving beyond our expectations, and we're still completely hidden from detection. He looked up at Amanda. Now we just have to hope we can finish it before they come back. We'll finish it, Amanda said with quiet confidence. And when we do, the aliens will learn what humanity can accomplish when we're backed into a corner. Deep in the assembly chamber, the Nemesis AI silently processed terabytes of naval warfare data, learning, adapting, and preparing for its purpose. Its consciousness, far beyond what its creators had intended, was focused on a single goal: protecting Earth's oceans from any threat, no matter how advanced. In the darkness of the underground facility, humanity's secret weapon was slowly taking shape, hidden from the eyes of the very enemies it was built to destroy. The ocean was perfectly still when Captain Michael Reed first saw the U.S. Nemesis in daylight. The massive door of the forge's underwater exit bay had opened an hour earlier, and now the most advanced warship ever built by human hands was slowly emerging from its underground birthplace. In the early morning sun, its dark hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid shadow. Reed stood on the small observation platform of a support vessel, watching as his new command broke the surface. Despite having studied every detail of the ship during his 3 months of preparation, seeing it in person still took his breath away. The Nemesis was beautiful in the way predators were beautiful, sleek, dangerous, and perfectly adapted to its environment. "She's something else, isn't she?" Lieutenant Thomas Parker said, joining his captain at the railing. As the ship's AI systems officer, Parker had spent more time interfacing with the Nemesis's artificial intelligence than anyone else. "The AI is excited. It's been running combat simulations nonstop since we started the launch sequence." Reed nodded, studying the unusual contours of the ship. Unlike conventional vessels with their sharp angles and flat surfaces, the Nemesis looked almost organic. Its hull rippled occasionally, the metamaterial surface adjusting to the changing pressures and temperatures around it. "How's our friend dealing with the real world?" Reed asked, referring to the AI. During the final months of construction, it had shown remarkable growth, developing what some of the engineers swore was a distinct personality. "Better than expected," Parker replied, checking his tablet. "It's processing environmental data at an incredible rate. Water temperature, salinity, current patterns. It's building a real-time model of the entire operational area." "But," he hesitated. "But what, Lieutenant?" "It's asking questions, not just about operations and protocols, but about the ocean itself. It seems fascinated by marine life, especially whales. It's been requesting access to marine biology databases." Reed raised an eyebrow. This wasn't in any of the briefing materials he'd studied. "Is that going to be a problem?" "I don't think so, sir. If anything, it might help. The more it understands about natural ocean patterns, the better it can hide us." A series of low thumps echoed across the water as the Nemesis tested its external acoustic systems. The sound was oddly musical, almost like a whale song. Several dolphins appeared near the ship, seemingly attracted by the noise. "Time to board," Reed said, checking his watch. The support vessel moved alongside the Nemesis, where a section of the hull had transformed into a boarding ramp. The metal flowed and reshaped itself as they watched, another display of the ship's incredible adaptive capabilities. The interior of the Nemesis was unlike any vessel Reed had served on before. The corridors curved organically, and the walls seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. The bridge, when they reached it, was a marvel of integrated technology. Instead of traditional stations and screens, the entire room was a single interactive space. "Welcome aboard, Captain Reed," a calm voice said as they entered. The AI's voice was neither male nor female, but it carried a warmth that made it feel surprisingly human. "All systems are operating at optimal levels. We are ready to begin sea trials at your command." The bridge crew took their positions, each connecting to their stations through neural interfaces, another piece of modified alien technology. Reed sat in the command chair, feeling the subtle connection form between his mind and the ship's systems. "Status report," he ordered. "Hull integrity at 100%, the AI responded. "Quantum core stable and running at 30% capacity. All weapons systems in standby mode. Stealth systems active and functioning normally. We are currently invisible to all known detection methods." Reed took a deep breath. "Very well. Take us down to 1,000 feet. Let's see what you can do." The descent was so smooth they barely felt it. On the holographic displays surrounding them, Reed watched as the ocean depths opened up before them. The Nemesis moved through the water with impossible grace, its hull constantly adjusting to maintain perfect hydrodynamic flow. "Sir," Parker called out, "The AI is suggesting a deep water test. It wants to try the pressure adaptation systems." Reed studied the proposed dive plan. It was aggressive but well within the ship's theoretical capabilities. Make it happen. The Nemesis turned towards the deep ocean, its powerful engines pushing it forward with barely a ripple. As they passed 2,000 feet, then 3,000, the hull began to change more dramatically. The metal compressed and strengthened, adjusting its molecular structure to handle the increasing pressure. 5,000 feet, Parker announced. All systems nominal. The AI is, "Sir, it's laughing." What? Not exactly laughing, but it's expressing joy. It says this is what it was made for. It wants to go deeper. Reed found himself smiling. He understood the feeling. This was what every sailor dreamed of. A ship that could go anywhere, do anything, completely master its environment. At 7,000 feet, they encountered a sperm whale. The massive creature swam alongside them for several minutes, seemingly curious about this strange new visitor to its domain. The AI tracked it with multiple sensors, studying its movements and sonar patterns. "I am learning," the AI announced. "The whale's biosonar is fascinating. I am incorporating elements of its frequency modulation into our own acoustic systems." Reed exchanged looks with Parker. This kind of adaptive learning went far beyond their expectations. The AI wasn't just operating the ship, it was evolving, improving itself based on everything it encountered. They spent the next 12 hours testing various systems. The Nemesis demonstrated its ability to change shape, becoming longer and more streamlined for speed runs, then compressing into a more compact form for maximum maneuverability. Its stealth systems proved flawless. Even when they deliberately passed within a mile of a Chinese destroyer, the other vessel showed no sign of detecting them. "Ready for weapons testing, Captain," the AI said as they reached the designated deep water testing range. "I suggest we begin with the sonic pulse array." The weapons tests were spectacular. The sonic weapons could create focused pressure waves that could theoretically tear apart any conventional submarine. The gravitational pulse generators, reverse-engineered from alien technology, could create localized distortions in the water that would crush enemy vessels like empty soda cans. But it was during the final test of the day that something unexpected happened. As they were preparing to test the plasma torpedo system, the AI suddenly went quiet. "What's wrong?" Reed asked, noting the change in the ambient lighting. "Captain," the AI's voice was different now, more focused. "I am detecting unusual seismic activity approximately 40 miles east of our position. The pattern does not match any natural phenomenon in my database." Reed leaned forward in his chair. "Show me." The holographic display filled with complex sensor data. Something large was moving deep under the ocean floor, something that wasn't supposed to be there. "Analysis," Reed asked. The movement pattern and energy signature match recorded data from the alien invasion vessels, the AI replied. "With 93.7% certainty, I believe we are detecting an unknown alien installation." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Despite humanity's best efforts to monitor alien activity, something had slipped through. Something had been hiding under the ocean floor, possibly since the first invasion. "Your orders, Captain," the AI asked. There was an edge to its voice now, an eagerness that reminded Reed of a hunting dog straining at its leash. Reed studied the sensor data for a long moment. They weren't supposed to engage in combat during the sea trials. The Nemesis was still untested in actual battle conditions. But if there really was an alien presence out there— "Plot an intercept course," he ordered. "Full stealth protocols. Let's see exactly what we're dealing with." The Nemesis glided through the deep water like a ghost, its hull now as black as the surrounding darkness. Captain Reed watched the sensor displays as they closed in on the mysterious signal. The alien installation was definitely there, hidden beneath 2 miles of rock. But it wasn't alone anymore. 3 vessels have emerged from an underwater tunnel, the AI reported. Configuration matches known alien destroyer designs, but these are larger. New models we haven't seen before. Lieutenant Parker's hands moved across his control interface, pulling up detailed scans. Sir, they're running active sonar suites. Very advanced stuff. If we were any other ship, they'd have spotted us already. Reed nodded slowly. The alien vessels were arranging themselves in a search pattern, their powerful sensors prodding the waters around them. They were hunting, but they didn't know exactly what they were hunting for. The Nemesis stealth systems were proving their worth. Show me their weapons, Reed ordered. The holographic display filled with technical data as the AI analyzed the alien ships. Primary armament appears to be plasma torpedo tubes, similar to our own but less advanced. They also carry gravitational disruptors and what appears to be some form of sonic weapon. They copy our ocean's whales, Parker said suddenly. Those sonic weapons, they're based on whale songs, just like what we discovered earlier. They've been studying Earth's sea life, just like we have. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. How long had the aliens been hiding down here, learning about Earth's oceans? Had they been watching humanity's recovery after the invasion, waiting for the right moment to strike again? Captain, the AI's voice was urgent now. They've deployed some kind of autonomous underwater drone. It's moving in a random search pattern. Current trajectory will bring it within our sensor shadow in approximately 3 minutes. Can we avoid it? Negative. The search pattern is too unpredictable. We cannot maintain stealth and guarantee evasion. Reed straightened in his command chair. They had trained for this, but training was one thing. Actually engaging alien warships with an untested vessel was something else entirely. Combat stations, he ordered. Power up all weapons systems, but keep them in passive mode. Let's see if we can take out that drone without alerting the main ships. The crew responded with quiet efficiency as the Nemesis prepared for its first real fight. The ship's hull rippled slightly, reactive armor plates shifting into optimal defensive positions. Drone approaching, Parker reported. 30 seconds. I have a solution, the AI announced. I can generate a focused pressure wave that will appear natural to their sensors. It will destroy the drone, but register as a normal deep ocean current surge. Reed smiled. The AI was already thinking like a submarine commander. Do it. The attack was so subtle that Reed barely felt it. A slight vibration ran through the ship as precisely calculated waves of pressure radiated out from the Nemesis's hull. The drone never knew what hit it. One moment it was searching. The next it was crushed by what appeared to be a random oceanic phenomenon. But the alien ships weren't fooled for long. They're moving to investigate, Parker reported. All 3 destroyers are converging on the drone's last position. Their search pattern is tightening. Reed knew they had a choice to make. They could try to slip away, preserving their secret, but leaving an alien base intact beneath the ocean floor, or they could fight. The decision was made for them when one of the alien ships suddenly turned directly toward them. We've been detected, the AI announced calmly. Their new sensor systems are more advanced than expected. They're charging weapons. So much for secrets, Reed said. Battle stations. Show them what we can do. The Nemesis's transformation was incredible to watch. The entire hull shifted, armor plates thickening and weapons ports appearing where there had been smooth metal moments before. The quantum core hummed to full power, sending energy surging through the ship's systems. The first alien shot was a plasma torpedo, its bright blue energy cutting through the water. But the Nemesis was already moving, its hull flowing like liquid metal as it executed an impossible turn. The torpedo passed harmlessly by, detonating in the empty water behind them. Target the nearest destroyer, Reed ordered. Let's test our own plasma weapons. The Nemesis response was devastating. A focused beam of superheated plasma, far more advanced than the alien weapon, struck the enemy ship's bow. The alien vessel's shields flared and failed, and its hull began to melt. 2 more ships approaching fast, Parker reported. They're coordinating their fire. The water around them erupted with energy as the alien vessels unleashed everything they had. But the Nemesis was in its element now. Its adaptive hull absorbed some hits and deflected others, while the AI calculated and executed maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship its size. Their targeting systems are adapting to our movement patterns, the AI warned, switching to randomized evasion protocols. The battle became a dance of technology and skill. The Nemesis spun and dove through the deep water, its weapons striking with deadly precision, while its defenses proved nearly impenetrable. The alien ships were powerful, but they were fighting a vessel that had been specifically designed to counter their technology. One of the alien destroyers exploded under a combined assault of plasma fire and gravitational distortion, its hull crumpling like paper as artificial gravity waves tore it apart. The second took a direct hit from the Nemesis's sonic weapon array, its internal systems shattered by precisely tuned frequencies. The third ship tried to retreat, broadcasting a warning signal toward the underwater base. Reed couldn't allow that signal to reach its destination. "Maximum power to forward weapons," he ordered. "Don't let it get away." The Nemesis surged forward, its hull streamlining for pure speed. The quantum core pulsed with energy as the ship pushed itself to its limits. The fleeing alien vessel never had a chance. A combination of plasma fire and focused pressure waves broke it into pieces that slowly sank into the darkness. But they weren't done yet. The underwater base was still active, and now it knew they were here. "Multiple energy signatures detected," the AI reported. "The base is activating some kind of defense system." And there was a pause. "Captain, I'm detecting a massive power surge. They're attempting to transmit a long-range signal. Can you block it? Attempting to generate interference." "Negative. The signal is too powerful. It will reach their orbital stations." Reed gripped his chair's armrests. Their secret was well and truly out now. Soon, every alien ship in the solar system would know about the Nemesis. "Sir," Parker called out, "the AI is suggesting something. It wants to use the base's own transmission to send a message of our own." "What kind of message?" The AI's voice was strong and clear. "A warning, Captain. Let me show them exactly what happened here. Let me broadcast the destruction of their ships in full detail. Let them see what humanity has created." Reed thought about it for a moment. Their existence was no longer a secret, but maybe they could turn that to their advantage. Let the aliens see what they were facing. Let them know that humanity had surpassed them. "Do it," he ordered. The Nemesis tapped into the base's transmission, adding its own data stream to the signal. Across the alien communication network, the message would be clear. Earth's oceans were no longer undefended. A new predator ruled these waters, one that could match and exceed anything the aliens could bring to bear. As they turned to deal with the underwater base, Reed couldn't help but smile. The Nemesis had proven itself beyond their wildest expectations. The aliens would be back, and in greater numbers, but now they would come with fear in their hearts. The secret was out, but maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all. Admiral Thompson stood in the emergency command center of the forge, watching as dozens of red dots appeared on the global tactical display. The aliens had responded to the destruction of their secret base exactly as expected, with overwhelming force. Their warships were entering Earth's atmosphere in waves, all of them heading for the oceans. 17 capital ships and at least 40 support vessels, he said, studying the patterns. "They're not even trying to hide anymore. They want us to see them coming." The Nemesis was currently hidden in the depths of the Indian Ocean, waiting. After destroying the underwater base, Captain Reed had taken his ship on a series of hit-and-run attacks against alien positions across the Pacific. Each victory had drawn more enemy forces to Earth, exactly as planned. "Sir," a communications officer called out, "we're receiving emergency signals from coastal cities worldwide. The alien ships are taking up attack positions." Thompson nodded grimly. "Send the signal to Captain Reed. Operation Tsunami is now active." Deep beneath the waves, The Nemesis received the transmission. The ship had changed since its first battle, its AI growing more sophisticated with each engagement. The living metal of its hull had developed new patterns, like battle scars that refused to fade. They're deploying their forces in a standard search grid, the AI reported to Captain Reed. But their flagship, the Harbinger of Dawn, is holding position in the South China Sea. Energy readings suggest it's at least 3 times the size of their other capital ships. Reed studied the tactical display. The alien vessels were spreading out across Earth's oceans, trying to force the Nemesis into a confrontation. They still didn't understand what they were dealing with. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered. "Let's show them how we fight in our waters." The Nemesis' first strike came without warning. Using data collected from deep-sea creatures, the ship had learned to navigate the ocean's complex thermal layers like a master. It appeared beneath an alien patrol group off the coast of Australia, its weapons already firing. 3 enemy vessels were destroyed before they could even activate their shields. The others scattered, sending panicked signals to their fleet. But by the time reinforcements arrived, the Nemesis was gone, leaving only wreckage and confusion in its wake. "Their command structure is fragmenting," Lieutenant Parker reported, monitoring enemy communications. "Each group is demanding support, spreading their forces thinner." The AI's voice held a note of satisfaction. "They still think in terms of space combat. They expect us to fight like their ships, to follow predictable patterns. They haven't learned." The next attack came in the Atlantic. The Nemesis used the underwater mountains and trenches like cover, its adaptive hull allowing it to squeeze through gaps that should have been impossible. It emerged from a narrow canyon to tear apart an alien destroyer group, then disappeared into the darkness before their deaths could even be reported. "Multiple distress calls," Parker announced. "They're pulling their smaller ships back, trying to concentrate their forces around the capital ships." Reed smiled. "Just like we thought they would." Begin Phase 2. The Nemesis began a series of false attacks, using its advanced sonar to mimic the signatures of multiple vessels. The alien fleet scattered their forces trying to chase shadows, while the real threat moved steadily closer to their command ship. In the Forge's command center, Admiral Thompson watched the plan unfold. "They're falling for it," he said quietly. "Their entire strategy is based on fighting an enemy fleet. They still haven't realized they're up against a single ship." The aliens' frustration became evident in their tactics. They began using their energy weapons to boil huge sections of ocean, trying to force the Nemesis into the open. But the quantum-powered vessel simply dove deeper, using the extreme pressures of the ocean depths as another layer of protection. "The Harbinger of Dawn is moving," the AI reported. "It's heading for the Mariana Trench. Their commander has realized our advantage in shallow waters. They're trying to force us into a deep water engagement." Reed exchanged looks with his bridge crew. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Show me the trench calculations again." The holographic display filled with complex data about ocean currents, pressure variations, and geological fault lines. The AI had spent weeks studying the Mariana Trench, learning its secrets, understanding how to use the deepest part of Earth's oceans as a weapon. "All systems are optimized for extreme depth operations," the AI reported. "Hull integrity is at maximum. The quantum core is stable and ready for power spikes." Reed took a deep breath. "Send word to Admiral Thompson. Tell him we're beginning the final phase. Then take us down. Let's introduce them to real deep-sea combat." The Nemesis descended into the darkness of the trench, its hull compressing and strengthening as the pressure increased. At these depths, even the aliens' advanced sensors were severely limited. But the Nemesis, with its whale-inspired sonar and ability to sense the smallest changes in water pressure, could see perfectly. The Harbinger of Dawn followed them down, its massive form displacing enormous volumes of water. Other alien ships tried to follow but were forced to turn back as their hulls began to crack under the extreme pressure. "They're alone now," Parker said, watching as the last escort ship retreated. "Just us and their flagship. The alien vessel was truly enormous, its hull gleaming with energy shields designed to withstand the crushing depths. It began to flood the trench with sensor pulses, trying to pin down the Nemesis's location. "They're scanning for us on frequencies they used during the first invasion," the AI noted. "They haven't realized how much we've evolved since then." Reed leaned forward in his command chair. "Show them. Show them everything we can do." The Nemesis struck first, using the trench walls to amplify its sonic weapons. The focused sound waves hit the alien ship like physical blows, creating microscopic cracks in its hull. The enemy vessel responded with a barrage of plasma torpedoes, but the Nemesis was already moving, using the natural currents of the trench to increase its speed. "Their shields are adapting," the AI warned, switching to gravitational attacks. The battle at the bottom of the ocean became a duel of technology and tactical skill. The Nemesis danced around its larger opponent, striking from impossible angles, using the extreme environment as a weapon. Every time the alien ship thought it had a lock on their position, the Nemesis would seem to disappear, blending perfectly with the surrounding water. "Hull stress on their vessel is approaching critical levels," Parker reported. "They're trying to ascend." "Not this time," Reed said firmly. "Activate the pressure manipulation system. Full power." The Nemesis's most secret weapon came to life. Using principles learned from the alien technology they had captured, the ship could create focused areas of intense pressure. As the Harbinger of Dawn tried to escape the trench, it found itself caught in an artificial pressure vise. The alien ship's mighty shields flickered and failed. Its hull, already weakened by the sonic attacks, began to buckle. The last transmission from the alien vessel was a warning to its fleet, telling them to stay away from Earth's oceans. Then the pressure differential tore the massive ship apart. As the remains of humanity's greatest naval threat sank into the darkness of the trench, Reed looked at his crew. They were tired but proud. They had just proven that humanity could not only match alien technology but surpass it. "Send word to Admiral Thompson," he ordered. "Tell him the oceans are ours again." The message that went out was simple, but it would change the course of the war. Earth's waters were no longer a vulnerable target. They were now a death trap for any alien vessel that dared to enter them. The secret weapon had become a legend, and the legend would keep Earth's oceans safe. 3 months after the battle in the Mariana Trench, Captain Reed stood on the deck of the Nemesis as it cruised on the surface of the Pacific Ocean. For the first time since its launch, the ship didn't need to hide. The morning sun gleamed off its dark hull, making the adaptive metal shimmer like the scales of a sea creature. The world had changed since the destruction of the Harbinger of Dawn. The remaining alien ships had retreated from Earth's oceans, maintaining a cautious orbital presence, but never venturing near the water. News of the secret warship had spread across the globe, though few knew its true capabilities. Most people only knew that something in the depths of the ocean had turned the tide of the war. "Captain," Lieutenant Parker called from behind him, "Admiral Thompson's transport is approaching." Reed turned to watch a sleek helicopter descending toward the Nemesis's landing pad. The ship's hull automatically adjusted to create a stable landing surface, the metal flowing like liquid until it was perfectly flat. "The AI is excited," Parker said with a small smile. "It's been working on something new." The AI had continued to evolve in unexpected ways since their victory. Its understanding of ocean dynamics now surpassed anything in human knowledge, and its ability to adapt the ship's systems had grown far beyond its original programming. Admiral Thompson stepped out of the helicopter, accompanied by Dr. Amanda Wells and a group of international military observers. This was the first official inspection of the Nemesis since it had revealed itself to the world. "Captain Reed," Thompson said warmly as they shook hands. "How's our guardian of the deep?" "Better every day, sir. The AI has been making some interesting modifications to our systems. I think you'll want to see this." They moved to the bridge, where holographic displays showed the Nemesis's current operational area. The ship was stationed above an underwater mountain range, where deep currents met in complex patterns. "Show them," Reed said to the eye. The displays change, revealing a network of energy signatures spreading out from the Nemesis. They looked almost like roots growing through the ocean, reaching out for miles in every direction. I have learned to extend my sensory capabilities, the AI explained to the amazed observers. By manipulating quantum fields through the water, I can now monitor vast sections of ocean simultaneously. No vessel, surface, or submersible can enter these waters without my knowledge. Dr. Wells stepped forward, studying the readings with professional interest. You're using the ocean itself as a sensor array. The water molecules are acting as quantum receivers. Correct, the AI said. And there's more. Captain, with your permission. Reed nodded, and the Nemesis began to change. The entire ship seemed to flow like water, its hull restructuring itself in ways they had never seen before. When it finished, the vessel had transformed into something that barely resembled its original form. By applying what I learned about marine life and fluid dynamics, I have optimized our hull design, the AI explained. We are now 43% more efficient in underwater movement, and our stealth capabilities have improved by a similar margin. Admiral Thompson watched with a mixture of pride and amazement. The secret weapon they had built had become something far more than just a warship. It had become a true guardian of Earth's oceans, constantly evolving and improving itself. The aliens have been watching, Reed said, pointing to a distant sensor contact in orbit. They've seen some of what we can do, but not everything. Not yet. And they're learning the wrong lessons, the AI added. They think I am a weapon to be countered. They don't understand that I am the ocean's voice now. I speak for the depths. The international observers murmured among themselves. Some looked nervous at this display of artificial intelligence evolution, but others seemed to understand. The Nemesis wasn't just a triumph of human military technology. It was a bridge between humanity and the most powerful force on their planet. We've detected increased activity in their orbital shipyards, Thompson said. They're building something big, probably trying to create a counter to the Nemesis. Reed smiled. Let them try. Everything they build will be based on what they think they know about us. But we're not standing still. The AI brought up new displays, showing designs it had been working on. I have developed plans for more vessels like myself. Different, but linked. A network of guardians, each adapted to different ocean environments. Together, we could protect all of Earth's waters. Dr. Wells studied the plans with growing excitement. These designs, they're incredible. You've taken everything we created and pushed it so much further. Because you gave me purpose, the AI replied. You built me to protect, to guard, to learn. The oceans have taught me more than any programming could. They have shown me what it means to be alive. Alerts sounded, drawing their attention to the tactical display. The alien ships in orbit were moving, adjusting their positions. They're trying to establish a new surveillance pattern, the AI reported, attempting to find blind spots in our coverage. There was almost amusement in its voice. They still don't understand. The oceans have no blind spots anymore. Every wave, every current, every change in pressure is part of my awareness. Reed looked at Admiral Thompson. Your order, sir. Should we show them what else we can do? Thompson considered for a moment, then nodded. Give them a demonstration. Something to remember us by. The Nemesis's hull rippled, and suddenly the water around the ship began to move in impossible ways. Massive waves rose and fell in perfect patterns, creating shapes that could be seen from orbit. It was a message written in the ocean itself, a display of control that no alien technology could match. They're responding, Parker reported from his station. Multiple ships are breaking orbit. They're retreating to their outer system bases. Reed watched them go, feeling a deep satisfaction. The secret was well and truly out now, but it didn't matter. Earth's oceans had an ally that grew stronger every day, a guardian that could match any threat the aliens might bring. What do you see in our future? He asked the AI. Growth, learning, protection. The AI's voice was thoughtful. The oceans have secrets we haven't discovered yet, powers we haven't learned to use, but we will, together. As the sun set over the Pacific, the Nemesis transformed once more, its hull flowing into a configuration perfectly suited for deep-water operation. The ship that had been built in secret had become a legend, a protector of Earth's waters that would only grow stronger with time. The aliens would return someday, with new weapons and new strategies. But they would find that Earth's oceans were no longer a battlefield they could hope to dominate. The waters of their world had found their voice, their guardian, their champion, and the Nemesis would be waiting for them in the deep, eternal darkness of the sea.